Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Just Follow Joy podcast. My name is Ariana Joy. I'm your host, and I'm a human design reader and teacher. And I'm so stoked you're here today because today we are talking to Felicia Bender, the Practical Numerologist. Dr. Felicia Bender, Ph.D., aka the Practical Numerologist, is devoted to helping audiences uncover their life's purpose and so much more with numerology. She is the author of Redesign Your Life, Using Numerology to Create the Wildly Optimal You, as well as Master Numbers 11, 22, 33, The Ultimate Guide. Felicia is the resident numerologist for astrostyle.com and is featured in many media outlets, including Refinery 29, Women's Health, Elephant Journal, and more. And let me tell you, there is no one I would rather have on my podcast explaining numerology for the first time than Felicia. Because not only does she really know her stuff, as you can tell, she is also one of the most lit up, happy, lovely people to be around and hear from. In fact, she's a 4-6 generator, so you can tell that she's really found something that she loves. And if you're new to numerology or you know a little bit about it, but you're still like, I have no clue what that actually means, no one's explained that to me in an understandable way, you will love this episode. We covered a lot, but in particular, we talked about something that's pretty much known as the most important number in your numerology chart, at least to start, and that is your life path number. And your life path number can tell you so much about who you are, why you're here, where you're going, and the obstacles you might encounter on your way there, plus how to overcome them. And as always, Felicia makes it as practical and down to earth and usable as possible. And I can't wait for you to learn more. So let's dive in. Felicia, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Oh, it is great, actually. It's an interesting year. So we'll be talking more about that, won't we?
We will. Felicia and I were just talking about our personal years, which are personal number years, I guess, which we'll probably dive into a little bit because it's super cool. But I'm having a 6-year and Felicia's having a 7-year, which we'll talk a little bit about the numbers, but that means that she's got some very deep introspection that's been going on.
Yes, indeed. So if I say weird things, you'll forgive me, right? This time.
Oh, 100%.
So, yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Only weird things are allowed to be said on this podcast, honestly.
Yeah, that's
Anything
true.
normal gets cut out.
And yet I am a very pragmatic person overall. So I am the practical numerologist, truth be told. So sometimes it is funny to kind of have that balance beam going on, right? Between heaven and earth, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I am a 7 personal life path number, I guess, 7 life path number. So that's me all the time.
Exactly.
We were actually literally just talking about this beforehand. I was like, I'm that person at the bar that people like, we end up having a discussion about like where their job is going. It's like, hi, how are you? Like, where do your passions lie? That's great. Let's talk about that. How's your relationship with your mother? It's never it goes deep.
It's never like what TikTok thing you like, show me your favorite TikTok sort of thing. Yeah. It's just not your deal overall.
Overall.
Yeah. Overall.
Oh, anyway. Okay. So Felicia is a numerologist, obviously. Before we really get started, could you just tell us what numerology is? Like, what's some of the theory behind it? How does it work?
Absolutely, because you and I have spoken of this. I'm a creative person, a humanities kind of gal, and I avoided numerology forever and ever. It never spoke to me. It's like anything having to do with numbers, anything having to do with math. No, thank you very much. I am out, right? So you and I laugh about that because really numerology, and I'm saying this up front so that if you are listening and you're like, I don't know about the math stuff, I hate math. Okay, it's not math. It actually is it's a language. Right. So that's the way I really like to approach this material, is that overall numerology is a science and an art, right? It's an interpretive dance like anything else, like astrology or any of these other ologies. And yet the basics of the art and science is based in, I use the numerology that comes from Pythagoras. There are different kinds of numerology, just like astrology. You've got Vedic astrology, you've got other sorts of astrologies, right? That we can all learn and glean information from, and find that that's what resonates, right, with us the most. So with me, I use Pythagorean numerology. Were you paying attention in math class with the Pythagorean theorem of geometry? Were you?
I I was, because I thought I wanted to be an engineer. Those dreams got dashed fast in college, but
Oh, well, and you're a 7, which is a perfect bridge for that. Yes, the analyst, right? The data cruncher. And so I was not paying attention. And yet it's the same guy, Greek mathematician. He was a scientist, a mystic. He was really into astrology through astronomy, into music, because numbers, the way that we're conceptualizing them, actually, if we can willingly suspend our disbelief, carry with them code. They carry with them a value. They carry with them not only a value, but an essence, but information and data and influence. Right. So whenever they show up, they're bringing this vibratory influence, which contains that data. So basically, numerology posits this idea that numbers carry not only that quantitative value, 1 apple, 2 apples, and so on. They carry with them this vibration and the frequency, and that brings information and influence. So in numerology, we can look at what the defining qualities of each number is. We work with numbers 1 through 9, and then there are variations thereof that we work with. But those are the primary 1-digit numbers that we work with. Once you know those, the basically what they mean and what they contain, you can really start to plug that in. Right? Because you were talking before about angel numbers, about other things. You can start plugging that in. And yet, some numerologists look at this in terms of messages that come with, you can almost like astrology, do things nationally, internationally, with countries, with this, with that, all of those things. For me personally, I like it in terms of what it has to say and to offer us as individuals. I am really into human psychology. I love to know what makes us tick. And for me, that is really what this offers. It offers a blueprint and a roadmap, a kind of gateway to what we checked in for. So in numerology, if I'm doing someone's chart, all we need is your full name as it appears on your birth certificate. We'll also look at your current name for a little bit of information, but the foundational information comes from the full name, and then your birth date. So when you're doing astrology, I just had this question the other day: do I need my birthplace? Do I need my time of birth? No, we only need your name and birth date. Okay, so those are the differences, the primary differences, because in astrology, you don't need your name, right? So when you do both astrology and numerology, I joke that you're out of excuses at that point.
No escaping. Nice try.
No escaping. Yeah. And so basically we then can look at cycles of time that you experience, that you're going through. We can get a really great framework about what environment you checked in to be a part of and to learn and grow in. We can look at your overall personality, or what I like to call your purpose profile. It's like in astrology, your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon, all of these other aspects. The same thing with numerology. We have all of these different variants and variables in our chart that can give us deeper and more layered and complete full spectrum information. And yet, if you're only going to know one, if you're a numerology newbie, and this is overwhelming anyway, so you're like, what do I really need to know? That would be your life path number. That is very similar to your sun sign in astrology. In numerology, it gives you the indicator of really what you checked in here to do, what you are here to master, to grow into, to evolve into. So because it's what we're here to do, it's going to also be the most difficult thing for us to do. We're going to have these shining propensities or gifts, talents in this area. And yet we'll also have some more significant kind of climbing walls or challenges to get us there. Because, what would the fun be without that? Right? So that is it, what is a good place to start if you are numerology curious is in knowing your life path number.
I love that. And you know what I also love about what you said? Well, there's so much I love about what you said. First off, actually, do you know what your profile is in human design? This is related. Do you
I
remember that?
actually do, but that's very complex to me in my mind. So I know I don't even know enough to be dangerous in terms of my human design. I know just the very, very basics of my human design. So,
but do you know your profile? It's the two numbers. So it's like 1-3 or 5-1.
I think it's a 2-4.
Ooh, interesting. See, that's funny. I would think, I mean, you are very outgoing, so I could totally see that for you, but I thought you might be a 1-3 because oftentimes people who like all the stuff you've talked about how you really love psychology and understanding people. It sounds like a 1-3. They tend to be really into that kind of stuff. And I'm surrounded by a lot of those people in human design, actually, but that's fascinating.
I should have looked that up before we got together, just to
I should have asked
clarify
you
and verify. Oh my goodness. Well, another time, darling.
Yes. Because Felicia has my chart up. She was like, yeah, I was just checking out your chart. And I was like, I should have done that. But yeah. It's so funny too, the difference here between like human design and numerology, because in human design, it's all about like, this is your purpose and this is how to make your life easier. And in numerology, it's very like, listen, bud, it's not all about making it easy. It's about finding who you are and then using that to move forward. But like you said, what's the fun if there aren't some challenges, some growth?
Yeah. I do find that those are the points. I mean, if we just look across human life, right, that's where people grow when they're faced with those most difficult times in life. That's the time when the most growth happens, like it or not. So it's almost like, I guess we get complacent. If things are all going great, we're like, I don't need to do that. Don't need to write my great American novel today. Things are looking really great. And I'm going to go have another drink. Right. So when it's always when we're a little bit pressured on some end that we do make those changes and those shifts and experience those levels of growth. Because in numerology, just like all the ologies, right? I'm not saying anything that people don't know in some way, shape, or form, just hoping to put it into maybe a different kind of framework. But so with numerology, for instance, if we look at the life path, do you mind if we use your number? I started to say, are you full out here? So
yes,
I don't want to put you on the, sorry. I'm like, I don't need to put you on the spot. So so for those of you listening, if you want to know, okay, well, this is all well and good, but what about me? What is my life path number? How do I figure that out? So let's do the calculation. So your birthday is October 18th, 1995. So one of the things that I also am fairly well known for, if anyone who follows me, is that I'm all about exposing or revealing or sharing the schools of thought. Right? Because just like any kind of ology in this realm, there are different ways of doing things. And some people feel very strongly and very passionately about the right way. I actually have the way I do it. And yet I'm open, whatever floats your boat, right? Whatever works for you. And yet it's a really good thing to upfront know that the way that I like to calculate it is by taking the month, the day, the year, and we'll make each of those into a 1-digit number, and then we'll add those 3 digits together. Some numerologists are proponents of adding the long way, which is just, so if you were to add the long way with your birth date as an example, it would be October 18th, 1995. It would be 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 5. That would be how you would do that. Then you'd get a 2-digit number, and then you'd reduce that to a 1-digit number. And I'll share how you do that. We're always our goal is always to reduce to a 1-digit number.
Mhm.
And yet the way that I will do the life path number is by doing this separately. So October is 10. So you take 1 plus 0 equals 1.
One.
So
Nailed
October
it.
is a 1. You nailed it.
Nailed it.
So then the 18th, 1 plus 8 is
9.
9.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now it's the hard part.
Oh damn
So
it.
1995, 1 plus 9 is 10,
Yes.
plus 9 is 19, plus 5 is
24.
24. I
Yeah.
always say it's like carpentry. It's measure twice, cut once,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So now it's do your addition at least twice so that you know that, because if you're off one, you're really off. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 24, correct?
Mhm.
Then we take the 24, 2 plus 4 equals 6. So
Mhm.
now we have 3 1-digit numbers. So we'll take 1 plus 9 plus 6. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 6 is 16. 1 plus 6 is 7.
And here I am, your
And-
7th life path number.
Exactly. So that is the life path number, the 7. So if we were to look at that again, numerologically, what is the 7? What does the 7 represent? So as a
Actually,
life path.
Can I
Oh,
stop you?
yes.
Okay.
Oh, please.
Instead of just diving into mine, do you think we could go from 1 to 7? We could just briefly talk about like the energies
I would
behind
love it.
those. I would love that.
The 1 life path, if you are a 1, you are who I call the innovative leader. These people are meant to lead. They are all about the self, right? They're learning, they're all the I words: independence, individuality, initiation. They're these creative souls, the entrepreneurs, the pioneers, right? And what they're working on is their output of creativity. They are creative vortexes, right? And also learning to balance and develop proper and healthy self-confidence. Okay. So what I also love to look at and talk about is with each number, you can, if you're listening here and you're like, oh, I'm a 1, but that doesn't sound anything like me. So think about it in terms of what is the opposite. And that's often what we're going to be working with, or sometimes arm wrestling or struggling with, the alligator, right? The
Mhm.
alligator that we get to struggle with. And it can be either the overactive or the underactive. So using the 1 as an example, you can be this dynamic entrepreneur. You could be this fail forward, risk taking, mover and shaker. Or you could be the overactive part of that, which you could still be doing that. And yet you're an arrogant SOB. You're a narcissist. You have a lot of anger issues. You can't see other people's point of view. You will run right over them, right? You just
Yeah.
can't see them
Mhm.
because you're I. Or you could be the one who has been demoralized and has been fallen down so often that you are the one now who sits at the back of the room, doesn't want to be called on, is very angry, is very cynical, is very victimized, is the one who doesn't step up, who doesn't lead, who's too afraid to do that, right? So, and again, when we're working with this as an overarching pathway, sometimes we could, depending on where we are in our life, you might start out as that underactive and then move into, and kind of bounce around is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Mhm.
So anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And that's funny.
Okay.
That reminds as soon as you were saying that about the 1, I was like, that is a manifester who has decided to people please instead of claim their power. And so
Yes.
sounds familiar.
And what I love about this is these are all categories of human development and human behavior that we're all working with in all of these modalities, right? So that's a beautiful part of it as well, is to be able to start thinking about that, thinking that that's how you start living, right? You start thinking in these terms, which I think is very powerful in that way. So let's move to the 2. If you are a number 2, you are what I call the intuitive diplomat. The 2 is the lover, not the fighter. I call the 2 kind of love on a stick. There are these, they're all about their learning patience, no one's favorite, and yet learning patience, learning the right timing. They're highly, 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 and I'm going to say that one more time, highly sensitive. So much so they really don't understand how much so. They're here to be the diplomats, the mediators. They're very relationship driven. They're often not quite they don't aspire, they don't have a lot of let me put it this, I'm trying to come up with the right words here, right? Because I don't want anyone, I'm very careful about how I say what I say, because I know it has some power there.
Yeah.
So they're often not overly ambitious in the material world. Their kudos come when they are the power behind the throne, which doesn't mean they can't, they can be extremely successful in business, but often they're on the support team, right? Or they're the ones who are making it all happen, but behind the scenes, right? They're doing that. They love that sense of win-win, the group. All of those are very, very vital to the 2. And yet the 2, the blessing is the curse. You're so emotionally attuned. You're learning how to be such a diplomat. And yet often you'll give, and then you'll withdraw with resentment. So the 2 is really learning. Every numerologist will say how not to be a doormat. And I like to call it, you're learning not to be a shapeshifter. You're learning not to be the ultimate pleaser, because often what you're really learning is how not to seek outside approval and how to get it from the inside out. Not to put, it's pretty simple in that way. So that's the 2. The 3 is the creative communicator, all about creative self-expression, emotional sensitivity. These people are the creators, the performers. They're incredibly buoyant, witty. They are meant to, at the end of the day, inspire, uplift, motivate. These are the writers, the directors, the artists, the songwriters, the everything in terms of communication is right up the alley here. These people are often a little bit scattered, so many things, so little time, right? And yet they're meant to experience a lot of things, but at the end of the day, bring it together and bring it out to other people. So the caveat here is that they are also emotional lightning rods. So often there are blockages here. I often talk with 3s, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't anything like me," and I'm like, "And how depressed are you?" Right? And they're very depressed because they've got all this creative energy, and really they're learning how to bring emotion into creative energy. And so these people are often have a lot of emotional trauma, often have a blockage that way, analysis paralysis, and have trouble kind of following through often on their creative ideas. But these people are so much fun, very social, they're meant to, I always say the mantra is, when you're laughing, you're learning, with the 3. So that is the 3. The 4 is the systems builder. They're the teachers. They can be the artisans, but they are the number of foundations, hard work, goals. They are seeking stability, security, that sort of thing. It is also the number of limitation. So these people are often really working through and around and over limits and limiting circumstances. So the oppositional pull there is they can be really, really bossy, really blunt, and see things very, very black and white, and have trouble kind of getting out of their own way in some ways, shape or form. But these, if you want something done, oh my gosh, get a 4.
My dad, it's so funny. I was talking to my mom about this the other day. I was like, dad's favorite number is 4, and he's a life path number 4. And everything you've said sounds a lot like him. Like, let's blast through those blocks, baby.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. Like literally anything. You need your car fixed. I have someone to fix it. It's a mechanic. He's Persian. We'll do it.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you bring that up as well. Often I will find that people come to me and find out their life path number and like, oh my gosh, I see that number everywhere. I had, people who's like, that was the jersey that he would get every time. It was just given to him in school. When he would play sports, he would get the number that was his life path number. I had someone one time who ripped open his shirt. It was quite a moment. I got to tell you. He was a 8, and yet he was a 17 before you reduced it to an 8. And he had a necklace with a 17 on it. Mm-hmm. And he said, this has always been my lucky number. It's always been the number I've been drawn to. So I find that happens a lot. Isn't that interesting?
It is. I also think it's interesting that he had to rip his shirt open to show you his necklace.
I did too. I didn't mind though, actually. I didn't mind.
Great. I was going to ask. I was like, what was that?
He was someone that you wouldn't have minded seeing that happen if you would have walked by. So. Okay.
Anyway, okay. So
there are some benefits to being a numerologist sometimes.
Unexpected benefits.
That's right.
Okay.
So let's move on to from the 4 to the 5. The 5 is the sensuous freedom seeker. Oh my gosh. These people are fun, fearlessness, adventure, all in capital letters. They are all about the experience. They are meant to experience everything in its fullest. They are the freedom seekers. They are a master escape artists, usually, in terms of they're seeking that high, that experience, that thing, that fun. And so they are catalysts. They're like these ultimate salespeople when it's something they believe in. They are always on the move, always moving forward. Travelers, often 5s are, consummate travelers, know different languages, do all of these things. Very, very frenetic and gregarious people. The flip side to that is because it's all about fearlessness, they can experience higher levels of fear. On some levels that kind of will stop them. Because it's about freedom, often I find 5s feel this sense of edginess in their lives, that they're always like one foot in, one foot out, one foot in, one foot out, because there's always a little bit of FOMO going on, right? There's a little bit of that. There's like, I feel restricted, I feel contained, I feel smothered, I feel I gotta move on. Right. So there's that kind of underlying thing with the 5 often. So much to say about the 5. And yet often I find that these people are incredibly just very similar in some ways to the 3, in which they kind of have a resume of all kinds of different things, all kinds of different things that they've done in their life. And they're really being asked to. The highest and best of the 5 is freedom through self-discipline. So it's the constructive use of freedom rather than I'm going to go do whatever I want, however I want, whenever I want, which is just self-indulgence. They're being asked to have some results around that. It's like, if you want physical freedom, you can't just hang around on the couch and drink and smoke and play video games. You've got to have some good habits so that you have physical freedom as you move on. Same with financial freedom, same with spiritual, all of those things. So they're very frenetic people, usually, unless they're really grappling with that restrictive element or the fearful element. So then after that 5, we've got the 6, the nurturing visionary. These people, oh my goodness, they're kind of Libra in that way.
My mom is a 6 and she is a Libra.
Oh my goodness, double that lovey-dovey, cozy, comfy, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. I love that. She's the warm and fuzzy. She's the one who you always want to go to when you have a boo-boo, one way or the other.
100%.
Right? Yes, because home family is what this is all about. It's responsibility, modulating responsibility. That's the biggest thing. It is the teacher of acceptance, right? Because people who are have that 6 are perfectionists, have some controlling issues or tendencies, let's put it that way, and very idealistic. So it's also a very self-sacrificing caregiving. These people are really at their highest and best when they're caring, giving service, kids, elderly, animals, just relationship stuff. They're also very much into the aesthetic beauty of things and to fairness and justice overall. Again, very creative. Oh my goodness, incredibly creative. So then we've got the 7. That's yours truly.
Bing, bing, bing. Wait, Felicia,
Bing, bing, bing.
what are you? I thought you were a 3.
I
Are
am
you
a 3.
Ah, I knew that correctly. Okay.
I am a 3 life path with some other things, of course, mixed in as we go. As you,
Yeah.
because you have, well, the interesting thing, little sidebar,
Mm-hmm.
is as we do this, just like any other chart. So you're a 7, and yet you have 2 3s in your chart.
Mm-hmm.
So in many ways, you can even, masquerade as a 3, or maybe you're seen more 3-like or feel more 3-like, and yet you're being asked to really infuse that and bring that in and envelop that into the pathway and the purpose of your 7. So it's a really wonderful way to start looking at things as well. That's another thing. If you're listening and you're going, I feel more like a whatever number, you may have that show up in your chart, right? So just as a spoiler alert for everyone.
Yeah, because I want to talk about a couple of the other numbers that could be on our charts. I think it's very interesting. But it's funny that you say I might come up as a 3, because I think I actually kind of I've always said I confuse people a little. Like they meet me and I'm very bubbly. If you can't tell, I'm very outgoing. And then they get inside and they're like, oh, it's a lot darker in here than I expected.
Yes. Deep river there. Yeah. No, that's absolutely. And the 3 can be that way as well. And we can bounce that conversation around as well. But overall, for you 7s out there, you are the analyst. And sometimes I like to say, and sometimes reluctant spiritualist. You're the seeker. You are learning trust, openness. You're learning how to connect with emotions. What I always love looking at a chart is that you bring in all this emotional acuity with the 3, and part of your pathway of learning with the 7 is learning to connect emotionally. So you kind of gave yourself a little bit of a cheat sheet. On the way, which bully for you, some people don't do. So it's a wonderful thing to look at. It's like, hey, you made that potentially easier for you in terms of really expressing that with your 7. The 7 is on a different wavelength, because at the end of the day, you're the brainiac, so cerebral, everything's going on in the head. And so part of the 7, I always say the 7 is kind of like one of the characters in the Big Bang Theory, right? A little bit of little Sheldon going on. Very data driven. It's like someone will say something emotionally based, and you're like, no, actually, the research shows that yada da 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 da. And someone's like, oh man, that is not what I was talking about. I was really talking about a more emotional thing. But you're like, no, I'm gonna put it into my spreadsheet, right, to make sense out of it. So, and yet at the end of the day, the 7 is here on a deep soul's growth journey. Not to be too lofty about it, but you kind of have to be a little bit lofty when you speak of the 7. It is, you are learning how to really connect and engage your spiritual life. And often what 7s are driven by are those questions. What is the meaning of life? Who am I? Why am I here? What's going on? Why is the world like this? All of those things. So the thing that can happen is that the 7 is also kind of a perfectionist, so can get pretty discouraged, get very frustrated, and not go deeper. So kind of riding on the superficial waves sometimes, until something often will happen where it will force those questions to be worked with. Often this could be, I don't know, it can be anything. I often find that 7s also sometimes have physical like mystery illnesses, or they don't digest things, or they have sensitivities or something that really a doctor can't deal with. They're like, oh, I don't know what this is. This is, just here's a pill. And they're like, no, no, no. And it sends them on the pathway of spiritual seeking on one hand, and also is a reminder that they have a body.
Mm.
Because a lot of sevens are, again, so much in your head that they're like these beautiful, they're usually these really refined, really, beautiful, kind of high-minded people. And yet they're like clumsy, or something like that. I'm just using that as an overarching, because they're like not in their body. So learning how to get into the body, I think, is something that the 7 is learning also. So then we'll move to the 8. The 8 is the kind of that CEO, that powerhouse, that material manifester, money, power, control, authority. These are all the very real world things that the 8 is being asked to master. This is a hard one. For a lot of people, for everyone. And it is very intense. I think it's like boot camp. It's demanding ethics. It's demanding the utmost integrity as you move through, but it's really demanding that you do well financially. And the highest octave of that is also giving back to others and forging a way to see what money means to you and what it doesn't, what you'll do for it, what you won't. It's also about power and empowerment. That's the very beginning. I call it the step up or get stepped on. And you're learning how to really modulate and manage that. And it's also about control, not being controlled by others, but then not being too controlling. And about authority. It's all, oh my gosh, you 8s out there usually have huge authority issues, right?
Same with the 8s on the Enneagram. That's literally their thing.
Yeah. A lot of, bucking of authority. Sometimes an 8 can have a really good, powerful authority or mentor that really shows them, but mostly I find that they get the crappy ones so that they can go, man, I could do better than that. And it's the universe going, yes, you can. And we're giving you the early and often opportunity to pursue that and to do that, to be that great boss that you always wished you had, to get the recognition, all of those very intricate things throughout life. So, of course, the opposition there is being too money focused, being greedy, being, blunt force trauma in terms of that's all that you do and all you want, and the power you get to be, or you can be the ultimate victim. A lot of people who are in scarcity, a lot of people who at the get-go are ground down by the very intense circumstances that they usually find themselves in early on in childhood. And so it, again, no matter what, money is a central theme. I also find that 8s often have a real distinct love-hate relationship with money, more so than the average bear. We all have money issues, right? Money is a thing that we all have to deal with, but it's a central theme for an 8. And then we go into the 9. The 9 is, we're working with 1 through 9. So 1 is self, new starts, beginnings, all those things, and independence. And then the 9 is the bookend to that. It is universal wisdom. It is selfless service. It is, I call the 9, the compassionate humanitarian, learning all about how to lean into that wisdom. They're that old soul kind of coming around for that. And yet what I also like to say is this: they can do anything. They have all the power and all the challenges of all the other numbers. So if it feels like a lot, if you're a 9, you'll know why now. And on top of that, the 9 is the ultimate like weirdo in the best possible way. And they're super creative. They're very quirky. They're learning to give and receive. They often have these weird dynamics with family and with other people because they're kind of these proselytizers. Like they've got their thing and they want to tell you all about it, but then they want to turn around and go to do whatever else they're doing. They don't want to listen to anybody else. They're like, no, sorry. I've got what I have to say and that's it. Kind of the rebel without a cause in some ways as well. What I like to say really quickly about them is just think about this energy, put these people's energy into a bowl. And then if you're a 9 or if you know a 9, think about how it might show up. And I'll give you a little bit of a laundry list of 9 life paths and see what that energy is. So Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Yogananda from the Autobiography of a Yogi, Greta Thunberg, Malala. Then we've got the creatives. We've got Jim Carrey, Elvis Presley, David Byrne from the Talking Heads, Prince. We've got these incredible otherworldly talents, right? Incredible. And that's kind of the 9. And yet at the end of the day, they won't be satisfied unless they do what they're doing because they can't not do it. Got to follow their heart. Follow their heart. So then there are master numbers. I won't go very intensely into those, even though people always want to know really, really about the master numbers. Those are the 11, the 22, the 33. If you're listening here, if you get an 11 before you reduce to a number 2, it's what's considered a master number, higher spiritual potential, more distinct challenges. It ain't easy. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And you can be expected to be called upon to lead, to kind of level the ego a bit, and to really operate with a higher sense of humanitarianism and humility overall. Again, it takes a lifetime. It really does take a bit to develop, understand all of that. And they're ultimately kind of in conflict with themselves, especially the 11 too. The 11 is the spiritual activator and the spiritual illuminator. So if you think about it, if you're listening here, so that we don't make this into a 5-hour affair that you and I are in.
I would love that, but
listen to double the 1, that innovative leader. You have double the 1, but the foundational energy is the 2. That diplomatic presence. So if you're an 11, you can go, oh, I can see already why I feel a little nutsy cuckoo sometimes, right? Because you've got that yin and yang. It's incredibly powerful when it's operating optimally, and yet it takes some time and some doing and some understanding and some seeking, like what you and I are doing and what these modalities bring to us, to put it into a framework that you can work with, right? That you can really have some oh my gosh, yes. Oh, that's that's who I am. And that's what my capabilities are. And that's why sometimes it's really, really difficult to understand how to operate this thing. Because on the one hand, I want to be the center of attention. I want to be the leader. I want it all, all this creativity, all this outward energy. And yet really what I want is relationships. Really what I value is being the power behind the throne. I'm a little bit, so how do you do that, right? How do you manage it? And how do you put it together? It is by no means impossible. And yet it really helps to understand that's what you're working with, right? Mm-hmm. The 22, it's a 22/4. Listen, double up on the 2. And then the 4 is that foundational energy. This is the master builder, master teacher. Again, all those 4 traits that we talked about with a lot of emotion and sensitivity, the double 2. And I think
that's gotta be hard. All of these sound kind of like playing on difficult
mode. Be careful what you wish for, right? Everyone always is like, oh, I want to be a master number. It's like, well, okay, we're careful.
No, my friend Nico is an 11 too, and he deals with everything you were talking about.
Yeah.
And for the so the 33 or the 3
and the 33 is the third 33/6. So double up on that 3, and then 6 is a foundation. This is a real high octave. This is the teacher of unconditional love. So think about that 6, that nurturing service and all of that. And then you got to splash the double 3, do it with performance, with fun, with happiness, with optimism, with inspiration. And it's really an interesting element to try to not to try to, but to do that, because both of those energies feel things so deeply and on different levels. So it can be kind of a real powerful pathway to learn how to protect yourself emotionally, set boundaries, clear yourself out energetically, because often just the six itself feels like it carries the weight of the world on its shoulders, right? It's so responsible for everything and everyone. And the three is really learning to work through emotions and trauma and these sorts of things. So again, very brushstroke there, but those are the major numbers that we will look at in terms of life path.
That is beautiful. And holy moly, you gave us so much valuable information there. Like, this is what I love about Felicia, is she's also a generator. And so like me, she can go deep into stuff. One, explain it very well, but like the passion and excitement about the numbers, it's like, now I'm a numerologist. Now I feel like I'm a numerologist.
It's
great.
strange though, because I love this stuff, and it never gets boring.
No.
Because there's always so much more to glean from it, and so many more nuances. And I'm that kind of geeky person. Again, as a 3, I'm a wordsmith. I love words. And I believe that words have such a significant amount of power. Right. And so I'm always looking for the right word, right, that might speak to someone, or to give it a more rich meaning or value. And so that I'm, until the day I die, I'll be doing that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to talk about, so we've been talking about life path numbers, but we've also said that there are, so for example, in my chart, I am a life path, I'm 7, but I also have 2 3s and a 5 in my chart as well.
Yes.
So you talk about 3 main numbers, I believe, when you're explaining someone's chart, at least at the beginning. So we have life path, and then what are the other 2?
Expression, or it's also can be called the destiny number. So this is taken from your full name as it appears on your birth certificate. And so we will, we each letter has a number value, and then we add that all together. That is your expression number. And that really is rather like your rising sign or your ascendant to me. It's a good way of thinking about it. And it really gives you a great idea about how you will go about doing what you're going to do with your life path number. It's the manner, the flavor in which you're going to do that. So it gives you a really great idea about how that's going to happen. And we have something called the maturity number, which kicks in kind of in your 40s and beyond. And this is a combination of your life path and your expression number, because as you go along, you're developing both, experiencing both, and hopefully integrating both into this powerful full spectrum experience that you're becoming. And that is a point of maturation and your maturity. And so it's the maturity number is more like a point of destination, right? It's like how you're going to bring those into fruition. And for you, it's a 1. So in your 40s and beyond is when you're really moving into, right, that leadership, more of that entrepreneurial spirit, all the things you're learning and doing and growing into now are leading you in that direction. So you can see it that way. I kind of digressed, sorry. And so it's life path, expression, or destiny. Then there's the soul urge, or it's also called the heart's desire. This is also taken from your name, and it is the vowels in your name that we add together. And this indicates what you want and need down deep on a soul level, again, your heart's desire, to feel that most sense of gratification, satisfaction. I also personally see it as a point of your soul's most intense and expansive growth, like what your soul needs this time around to really flourish and get on to the next phase, right? So that, to me, that I don't know if other numerologists feel that way, but I do. And then there's the birthday number, the day you were born. And that also is a significant number. Some numerologists, there's several who think that this actually even takes precedence over your life path. that your birthday number is actually more important. Again, it all depends on school of thought. And yet this is a significant aspect of who you are. It's kind of like I always see it as, first of all, a gift. I'm a visual person. So it's like a birthday present, right? That you're giving out to the world and giving to yourself as well. And yet it's also where I find people often will feel a bit more of a point of identity or comfort than they do their life path. And then, of course, there are people who have the same life path and the same birthday. So then it's pretty consolidated. And yet it is often where you feel more of a sense of identity. And then you're being asked to kind of move that into the fullest expression of your life path number.
And real quick, so your birthday, would that be like month plus day?
No, it's just good question. That is a great question. It is just your birthday itself. So for you, yours is the 18th. Mm-hmm. And so it's 1 + 8 = 9. So your birthday number is a 9.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting.
Also, the 1 and the 8 have significance, but that's when, you start getting more deeply into what comes before it, and it gives you some more information. But just on the basic level, just knowing the 9 is the most important.
That's great. So the top 3 that you'd recommend people know would be their life path, and then their destiny and their soul urge.
I would say that life path, destiny, soul urge, and the birthday is kind of readily apparent because there it is. Yeah. It's right there. So let's just say 4 of them. I think that you could know those 4 and have a really good idea about what you're doing, what you're doing and why.
What the hell are we even doing here, guys?
Yeah.
Well, the numbers tell you. Well, that's awesome. So, okay, wow. Again, I could talk about, there's so many other things. There's like karmic debt, there are Grabavoy numbers. Oh my God, I have started using Grabavoy numbers. Actually, they've kind of been working. Okay, we have to talk a little bit about this though. So do you know anything about Grab? I'm sure you do.
I mean, I've heard that. I don't really use them. Give the listeners an idea of what that is.
Oh my God. So there was a Russian scientist, actually, I think mathematician, also a lot like Pythagoras, and he realized that there are these things called like radionic signatures that have to do with numbers, and if you combine them in certain ways, it's almost like you can fix frequencies that aren't working for you, and you can attract and manifest things more quickly into your life. So for me, I've been using a lot of stuff about money. Like everything in my journal is like, I'm activating code 520. Oh, I hope I say this right. I think it's 7418, and attracting, unexpected money into my life. And that's actually been working. I mean, some of it has been expected, but I didn't expect all of it. And now I have more money. So it's been great.
And that's the ultimate goal, right?
Yes. Isn't it?
How it gets there is inconsequential. So
yeah, but those are super cool too. But okay. Anyway, so Felicia, you have given us everyone listening, from all that Felicia's given us right now, you have more than enough to get started in numerology and learn so much about yourself. And also, if you want to get a reading from Felicia, I highly recommend it because I was intuitively drawn to her. I'd been following her for 3 years. This is always my story. I've been following someone for years, and then suddenly I'm like, gotta do it. And it was so helpful about my life path number, everything else in my chart. What I was going through this past year, I'm in a 6 personal year, and talking to her about it has made so much sense. But before we sign off, I just want to ask you a couple more questions, and they're really fast.
Oh, absolutely. I'm game if you are. If all of you out there are like, oh my gosh, okay. Oh, all right.
Fine. But this is what it's like listening to a very excited 3 and a very interested 7 life path number. But so what right now is bringing you a ton of joy? It can be anything.
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question, because that's been something that it's so funny, because I am a 3 life path. I am the number of joy, of optimism, of all those things. And yet there can be struggles with that. Because also I'm a person who has a lot of, I've got a lot of Capricorn and I've got a 22 for birthday number. I have other things that are much more earth. And so I don't have, in my astrology, I don't have any air.
Oh, wow.
So my 3 is my air. So all I'm saying is that's a really good question, because I ended up last year, I went off to Europe to do some things that absolutely the timing was off, came back having to kind of regroup. I'm in a place where I feel like I'm not quite grounded in. We've got all of the pandemic stuff, we've got everything else. So actually getting out and getting new groups of people or new friends, everything is a little bit restricted. And I am in a 7 personal year, which is about introspection. It is about kind of going through these more deeper questions. And one of my questions is how do I do things that I have more fun with and enjoy? And part of the issue is I really enjoy working.
There you go. Numbers are bringing you joy.
So I've been doing, what has brought me joy this year is I turned my pen to, I've written 2 screenplays this year. And so I'm kind of trying to get those out the door and see if they can find a home. It would be unicorn magic if they did. And yet, why not give it, put them out there? So that is something that I've gotten a lot of joy out of, that creative process. It's been very fun to me. And otherwise, I'm just learning a lot of new and different things and cultivating friendships. I have a lot of friends and yet not where I am.
I get
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying that part. But I think the creative processes that I'm experiencing this year are bringing me a lot of joy.
Yeah. Okay. And the last question I have is, how can people find you? How can they connect with you and learn more?
Oh, if you are numerology curious, go to my website. That's a great place to just start. Lots of free resources there. It's Felicia Bender, Felicia Bender, FeliciaBender.com. I've got a lot of videos on YouTube that you can go take a look at, lots of blog articles, everything. So anything that that piques your interest in numerology, you can go to my website. It's a pretty good resource, I think.
Fantastic. And I will have that down below in the show notes as usual. But with that, Felicia, you rock.
I have loved this. Well, maybe we could do another installment if anyone's interested to learn about the personal years, because as we get toward the end of the year, it's a really good thing to know where you've been, where you're going, and make some sense out of that.
Holy moly, I would love that. Oh
yeah,
gosh.
that would be a really good. It's always really fun to do that, because truly it is a matter. It's this wonderful framework. I call the personal years knowing the theme to your party, right? You don't want to show up to the wrong party in the wrong outfit for an entire year. So it will really help you not make that mistake.
That would be great. Well, okay. Until that time, Felicia, you are awesome. Everyone listening, you are awesome. You totally rock. And we will see you next time. Bye.